When you're desperate for a breakthrough, God is shifting something. There are moments in life when you reach the end of your strength, not because you stopped believing, but because the battle has gone on longer than you ever imagined. You've prayed, you've held on, you've pushed through wave after wave, and yet the breakthrough you hoped for still seems out of reach. You're tired of circling the same mountain. You're tired of repeating the same emotional cycles. You're tired of fighting battles that never seem to close. And somewhere inside, even if you haven't said it out loud, you're whispering, "God, something has to change." If that's where you are today, this message is meant for you, because there is a specific kind of exhaustion that comes only when you've carried a long battle by yourself. A kind of fatigue that doesn't show on your face but weighs heavily on your heart. You function, you work, you take care of others, you stay strong because you don't have another option. But inside, you feel the slow burn of emotional depletion. You're not imagining it. Long battles drain even the strongest believers, and some cycles become so familiar that breaking them feels impossible. But here's the part that often gets overlooked. The moment right before breakthrough rarely feels peaceful. It feels pressured. It feels heavy. It feels like everything inside of you is stretching in ways you didn't ask for. The closer you get to change, the more intense the resistance becomes. Breakthrough isn't comfortable. It isn't gentle. It often comes at the end of seasons that feel unbearable. And that tension you feel right now, it might not be a sign of failure. It might be a sign that something is shifting beneath the surface. Stay with me, because desperation is not the end of your story. In Scripture, breakthrough doesn't begin when circumstances change. Breakthrough begins when something shifts inside the heart. Before God opens a new door around you, He strengthens something within you. Before He changes the situation, He changes the posture of your spirit. Internal shift always precedes external change. That's why Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" God asks, do you perceive it? Because the new thing starts invisibly long before it becomes visible. This is the moment where breakthrough begins, not when everything looks different, but when your perspective begins to move, when your hope begins to rise again, when your spirit refuses to settle for cycles that held you for too long. You don't have to manufacture change. You don't have to force your way forward. You simply have to recognize the shift God is already initiating within you. And that shift often starts with the realization that you were never meant to fight this battle alone. You were never meant to carry the weight of the outcome. You were never meant to repeat cycles that drain your joy, your peace, and your purpose. Breakthrough is not for the strong. It is for the surrendered. It is not for those who have it all together. It is for those who finally reach the point where they say, "Lord, I can't stay in this place anymore." Maybe you've reached that point today. Maybe you're tired of patterns that steal your peace. Maybe you're ready for God to break the cycle, not because you are strong enough, but because you are finally willing to let Him step into the part you've been carrying alone. Breakthrough begins where self-strength ends. And if you're standing in that place, exhausted, uncertain, desperate for something to shift, you are exactly where God does His greatest work. You are not losing your mind. You are not going backwards. You are not stuck in this forever. What feels like pressure might be the last stretch before something new opens. What feels like fatigue might be the signal that a season is ending. What feels like desperation might be the doorway God uses to bring you into the change you've been praying for. Breakthrough is not far from you. It's already beginning, inside, where God always starts first. Understanding breakthrough. Breakthrough is a word many people use, but few understand what it truly means in a spiritual sense. Most imagine breakthrough as a sudden moment, an overnight change, a dramatic answer to prayer, a door swinging open all at once. But in Scripture, breakthrough is rarely instantaneous. It is almost always the result of a slow, steady process God has been orchestrating long before anything becomes visible. Breakthrough is less about an event and more about a transition, a shift from what has held you to what will free you. To understand breakthrough, you have to understand God's rhythm. He works in layers, not leaps. He prepares the heart before He touches the circumstance. He forms the character before he changes the environment. God brings breakthrough through you before he brings it to you. This is why true breakthrough often begins long before you see results. It begins when God starts moving internally, clarifying your identity, strengthening your resolve, healing old wounds, or exposing cycles that need to be broken. This inward work lays the foundation for external change. Breakthrough also involves recognition. You cannot step into what you do not perceive. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing, now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" God was already doing something new, but the people could not see it because their minds were still trapped in what had been. That's one of the first barriers to breakthrough, the inability to recognize when God is initiating change. When your expectations are tied to how things used to be, you can miss the signs that a new path is already forming. Understanding breakthrough requires acknowledging that spiritual change rarely begins in conditions that feel comfortable. Breakthrough often begins in tension, in exhaustion, in the quiet ache that says, "I cannot stay where I've been." This internal pressure is not a punishment. It's evidence that God is loosening what held you so he can lead you somewhere new. Many people misunderstand this discomfort and assume it means they're off course. In reality, it's often the first indicator that breakthrough is already taking shape. Another truth about breakthrough is that it does not always look like victory at first. Sometimes it looks like endings, friendships fading, opportunities closing, routines shifting, desires changing. Sometimes it looks like confusion or silence. Sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart, when in reality, things are falling into place. God often removes what you think you need so he can give you what will actually sustain you. Breakthrough often begins in subtraction before multiplication. Breakthrough also requires participation, not striving or forcing, but responding. God initiates, but he doesn't bypass your alignment. Breakthrough is a collaboration between divine power and human surrender. You cannot cling to old patterns and expect new outcomes. You cannot repeat the same emotional cycles and expect a different future. You cannot hold on to what God is trying to release and still walk into the next chapter freely. Breakthrough asks for openness, open hands, open mind, open spirit. To understand breakthrough fully, you must also understand timing. Breakthrough rarely comes early, but it never comes late. It arrives at the exact moment you are ready to carry what comes next. God will not open a door you lack the stability to walk through. He will not give you a blessing you do not yet have the strength to sustain. So when breakthrough feels delayed, it does not mean God is distant. It means he is preparing something that requires maturity, clarity, or healing first. And finally, breakthrough is not a single moment. It's a doorway into a new pattern. It shifts how you think, how you operate, and how you respond to challenges. It frees you from cycles that drained you. It restores parts of you that went numb. It reconnects you with purpose. Breakthrough is not only about what changes around you, it's about who you become as God changes you. When you understand this, you realize that breakthrough has been building long before you ever ask for it. Breakthrough is not magic. It is movement. Movement initiated by God, perceived by your spirit, and sustained by your willingness to walk away from what held you. And when that movement begins, even quietly, it means the new thing has already started. Here's why breakthrough feels hardest. Right before it comes. One of the most misunderstood truths about breakthrough is this: the moment right before it arrives often feels like the hardest moment of the entire journey. This is the place where pressure intensifies, old wounds resurface, resistance deepens, and discouragement tries to convince you that nothing will ever change. It's the place where you start questioning everything: your decisions, your progress, your strength, even your prayers. And yet, this difficult space is often the clearest indicator that breakthrough is closer than you realize. Why does it happen this way? Because breakthrough disrupts what has been normal. It challenges patterns that have existed for years. It confronts lies you once believed. It forces your heart to step away from familiar pain and move toward unfamiliar freedom. And that transition, letting go of what has held you while reaching for what God is giving, is rarely smooth. It creates internal tension, not because you are weak, but because you are changing. The hardest part comes right before breakthrough, because you are outgrowing the version of yourself that survived the previous season. Growth feels like pressure, because stretching feels like pressure. When God prepares you for something new, He often exposes the places in your heart that cannot move into the next chapter. Old coping mechanisms stop working. Old mindsets start breaking. Old cycles feel tighter. You can't ignore what needs to change anymore. The discomfort intensifies because transformation is happening. Another reason the process feels heavier near breakthrough is spiritual resistance. Whenever God begins to shift something in your life, the enemy tries to convince you that nothing is shifting at all. He uses exhaustion, discouragement, and confusion as tactics to weaken your resolve. He wants you to quit right at the moment God is aligning everything for your breakthrough. This is why the emotional weight increases. Not because you're failing, but because you're right at the threshold of change. There is also a psychological dimension to this experience. Your mind has lived in certain patterns for so long that even healthy change feels threatening. The brain prefers what is familiar, even if the familiar is painful. So when God begins pulling you toward freedom, your internal system fights to keep things normal. This creates friction, not because breakthrough is wrong, but because you're stepping into something new. The closer you get to freedom, the louder the old patterns become. Breakthrough also feels hardest right before it comes because God allows the final moments of the process to reveal what you've outgrown. Things that once comforted you no longer bring peace. People you relied on feel distant. Environments that were once tolerable begin to feel restrictive. The grace for the old season lifts, which is why everything feels heavier. You're not losing strength. You're losing attachment to what no longer fits. Right before breakthrough, there is often a moment where everything feels like it's falling apart. But what's actually happening is alignment. God is removing what cannot stay, closing what cannot continue, and shifting what cannot support your future. It feels chaotic, but it's orchestrated. It feels confusing, but it's purposeful. It feels painful, but it is preparation. Something is breaking, but it's not you. It's the cycle that bound you. And here's a truth that brings clarity. Life feels heaviest right before breakthrough, because your spirit can sense a transition your eyes cannot yet see. There is a spiritual awareness that something is shifting. You begin feeling restless, emotional, or suddenly sensitive to things you ignored before. That internal alert is not anxiety, it's anticipation. Your spirit knows God is bringing you into something new. When the battle intensifies, it is not a sign to quit. It is the signal that you are closer to breakthrough than you've ever been. The pressure you feel is not the end. It's the beginning of the shift. You're not falling apart. You're shedding what cannot go with you. And once the shedding ends, clarity emerges, strength returns, and the path forward becomes unmistakable. Breakthrough often feels hardest right before it comes because God is finishing the final stage of transformation. And once that final stage is complete, what felt heavy will suddenly feel holy. What felt impossible will feel aligned. What felt delayed will feel perfectly timed. The struggle intensifies because you are standing at the doorway of something new. Internal shift, external change. Breakthrough rarely begins with visible change. It begins with an internal shift, one that happens quietly, personally, and often unnoticed by the people around you. Before anything moves on the outside, something must move within you. God always begins transformation in the heart long before the circumstances reflect it. The inner shift is not optional. It is the foundation of every breakthrough that lasts. Most people look for breakthrough in their surroundings. They watch for open doors, sudden opportunities, answered prayers, or dramatic changes. But the truth is that external change cannot take root until internal change has taken shape. If the heart is not aligned, the blessing cannot be carried. If the mindset is not renewed, the opportunity cannot be sustained. If the identity is not secured, the breakthrough becomes temporary instead of transformational. So what does an internal shift actually look like? It begins with awareness. The moment you recognize that the way you've been thinking, responding, or surviving no longer fits the person God is shaping you to become. This awareness is not condemnation. It is invitation. God brings to the surface the patterns that need to break so you can step into the freedom He designed for you. That inner clarity is the first sign that breakthrough is beginning. Internal shift also involves honesty. You cannot change what you are unwilling to acknowledge. Many of the cycles that keep people stuck are rooted in unexamined pain, fear, shame, or assumptions formed years ago. When God begins to heal these places, He often reveals thoughts you've carried for so long that you believed they were part of your identity, but He exposes them so you can release them. Breakthrough requires letting truth replace the lies that shaped your perspective. Another part of the internal shift is surrender. Not passive surrender, active surrender. This means letting go of control, outcomes, and timelines. It means trusting God even when you do not understand the process. It means being willing to release strategies that once helped you survive but now keep you stuck. You cannot carry breakthrough in one hand while holding fear in the other. The shift requires loosening your grip on what once felt safe so you can receive what God is bringing. Internal shift also shows up as strengthened identity. You begin to see yourself with clarity, not through the lens of past failures, old wounds, or the expectations of others, but through the lens of who God says you are. You recognize lies that used to control you. You stop apologizing for being who God created you to be. Confidence doesn't suddenly appear. It grows quietly as God restores your sense of worth. This identity shift prepares you to walk into opportunities you once felt unqualified for. Then comes alignment. Your desires begin to change. Your boundaries strengthen. Your priorities shift. Things that once consumed your attention lose their pull. Patterns that once defined you lose their power. You begin moving toward healing instead of familiar pain. This alignment is one of the clearest signs that breakthrough is underway. God is setting your heart in the direction your future requires. As the internal work deepens, something unexpected happens. Your external world begins responding to your inner transformation. You speak differently. You make decisions differently. You walk into rooms carrying peace instead of fear. You handle conflict with clarity instead of insecurity. You pursue relationships that nurture you instead of draining you. Without forcing anything, your life begins to rearrange itself around the person you are becoming. This is why external change is sustainable only when internal change comes first. If the heart is still wounded, the new season becomes a burden. If the mind remains tied to old patterns, new opportunities collapse under the weight of old thinking. But when God reshapes your inner world, everything He leads you into becomes stable, because it rests on a foundation He built. And here is the most powerful truth. Many people think they are waiting on God to bring breakthrough, but often, God is waiting on the internal shift that allows Him to release it. External change follows internal readiness. The moment your heart aligns with what God is doing, the external begins to move. The shift may feel subtle at first, a new thought, a clearer boundary, a small act of courage, a quiet refusal to repeat an old pattern. But these small internal movements are not insignificant. They are the first steps toward a future you are finally prepared to carry. Breakthrough begins inside so that when it appears outside, it can last. And once the inner shift takes root, the external will eventually follow, naturally, steadily, and unmistakably. Aikidinator, breaking cycles with truth. Every breakthrough requires the breaking of cycles, patterns of thinking, reacting, and living that quietly shape our choices without us even realizing it. These cycles often develop over years. Some come from wounds, some come from survival mode, some come from the environment you were raised in. Others come from lies you believed because they felt true during a difficult season. But no matter how they formed, cycles have one purpose: to keep you tied to what God is trying to lead you out of. Cycles don't always announce themselves. They work subtly. They repeat quietly. You can be praying for breakthrough while still living inside a pattern that contradicts the freedom God is calling you into. That is why truth matters. Truth interrupts the loops that have convinced you there is no other way. Truth exposes what you assumed was normal. Truth reveals the difference between what you've tolerated and what God intended for your life. Cycles are broken first by recognition. You cannot confront what you cannot see. God often brings breakthrough by allowing moments where old patterns finally feel too heavy to keep carrying. You start noticing that the frustration isn't random, it's repetitive. The emotional responses aren't new, they're familiar. The obstacles aren't unexpected, they're cyclic. This awareness is not defeat, it is the beginning of deliverance. The truth shines a light on what needs to change so you can finally step into something new. But recognition alone is not enough. Truth must replace the lie that empowered the cycle in the first place. Some cycles are rooted in the lie, "This is the best you'll ever have." Some are rooted in, "You don't deserve better." Some whisper, "You cannot change." Others say, "Everyone leaves," or "You're too broken," or "You always fail." These lies become internal narratives, and internal narratives become external patterns. This is why truth is not just information, it is liberation. Scripture says, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Truth does not shame you for the cycle, it frees you from the cycle. Breaking cycles also requires willingness. Many people pray for breakthrough, but resist the truth that would lead them into it. Truth may ask you to let go of something you leaned on for comfort. It may ask you to stop excusing a pattern that has limited your growth. It may ask you to face a fear you've avoided, forgive someone you held in your heart, or confront a belief that shaped your identity. Truth can feel uncomfortable, but it is never unsafe. It leads you out, not in. Cycles also break through replacement. You cannot just stop a pattern, you must replace it. Fear is replaced with trust. Shame is replaced with grace. Self-condemnation is replaced with identity. Avoidance is replaced with courage. Chaos is replaced with peace. The mind needs something new to hold on to, or it will always return to what it knows. God doesn't just remove cycles, He installs truth in their place. Another important part of breaking cycles is consistency. One moment of revelation doesn't rewrite years of habit. Breakthrough is not an instant switch, it's a repatterning, a renewing of the mind, a daily choosing of truth over assumptions, of clarity over confusion, of courage over fear. The truth you practice becomes the life you live. This is why breakthrough is never just emotional, it is intentional. God also uses pressure to break cycles. When something is no longer meant for your future, God allows the discomfort of the old pattern to intensify until staying the same becomes more painful than changing. This isn't cruelty, it's mercy. He doesn't let you stay in cycles that steal your peace or limit your purpose. When the cycle becomes tight, it's because He's preparing to break it. There is one more piece people often overlook. You cannot break a cycle you still identify with. If you believe "this is who I am," the pattern becomes permanent. But when truth reveals, "this is what you learned, not who you are," the cycle loses authority. Truth returns you to your original design. And once truth takes root, something powerful happens. The cycle breaks not because the circumstances changed, but because you changed. Your responses shift, your boundaries strengthen, your vision clears, your voice returns, your choices align with the person God is forming within you. And when the cycle breaks, the breakthrough that felt impossible suddenly becomes natural. A door you couldn't push open no longer needs pressure. A pattern that felt immovable loses its grip. A battle that drained you begins to lift. The truth didn't just set you free, it set your future free. Signs a breakthrough is near breakthrough rarely arrives without warning. Before God shifts something around you, He allows specific signs to surface. Subtle changes in your spirit, in your environment, and in your inner world. These signs do not always look dramatic, and they often go unnoticed unless you understand how God prepares someone for a turning point. When breakthrough is near, heaven starts rearranging things long before earth catches up. One of the first signs is holy discomfort. The place that once felt manageable suddenly feels too small. Conversations that once energized you now feel draining. Habits that once numbed your pain now feel empty. You begin sensing, without knowing why, that something in your life can no longer continue in the same way. This discomfort is not frustration. It's God loosening the ties to a season that no longer fits who you are becoming. When God prepares you for a breakthrough, He removes the grace for staying in old patterns. What once worked simply stops working, not because you failed, but because you have outgrown it. Another sign is unexpected clarity. After long seasons of confusion or emotional fog, you begin seeing things with sharper perspective. You start recognizing boundaries you never had the strength to set. You notice truth you once ignored. You perceive cycles you were stuck in. This clarity does not come from effort. It comes from alignment. When breakthrough is near, God lifts the veil on areas of your life that were previously blurred, and what once felt complicated becomes unmistakably clear. A third sign is divine restlessness. Not anxiety, not fear, restlessness. A stirring in your spirit that tells you you're on the edge of something shifting. You may not know what it is, and nothing external may be changing yet, but internally, you feel movement. This restlessness is a spiritual indicator. Your spirit is sensing change before your circumstances reveal it. God often awakens this inner alertness to prepare you for doors He is about to open. Breakthrough is also near when you begin to experience accelerated spiritual sensitivity. You hear God more clearly. You feel drawn to prayer or stillness in ways you didn't before. Certain scriptures suddenly speak directly to your situation. Your awareness of God's presence increases not because your life is easy, but because He is drawing you deeper in preparation for what comes next. When breakthrough is near, God strengthens your inner hearing so you can recognize the next step when it reveals itself. Another sign is strategic closing of doors. People may distance themselves. Opportunities dry up. Plans fall apart. What once seemed stable suddenly shifts. These closures are not chaos, they are calibration. God closes doors that would interfere with your breakthrough. He removes distractions that cannot come with you. He ends chapters you would have stayed in far too long. Closed doors are not punishment. They're protection. They're God clearing the path so nothing blocks what He is bringing into your life. Breakthrough is also near when you start noticing unusual opposition. Fatigue increases. Old fears try to resurface. Unexpected discouragement hits you. This is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign the cycle is breaking. Resistance always intensifies at the threshold of change. The enemy fights the hardest when he knows you're closest to freedom. Pressure increases because breakthrough is pushing its way through. Another unmistakable sign is a shift in your internal dialogue. You begin saying things you would never have spoken before. I can't keep living this way. I'm ready for something new. I refuse to repeat this cycle. I know God has more for me than this. This is not random thought. It's spiritual awakening. God is realigning your thoughts with truth, preparing your mindset to receive what He is about to release. Breakthrough does not land on a heart that is passive. It lands on a heart that is awakening. Finally, breakthrough is near when God begins restoring hope, even if your circumstances haven't changed. A quiet expectation returns. A sense of possibility rises. A gentle confidence appears, not based on what you see but on what you sense. Hope is the first fruit of divine movement. Before God changes the season, He changes the atmosphere inside you. Not every sign will appear at once, but if you recognize even 2 or 3 of these, breakthrough is not far. It means God has already begun the shift. It means the season that drained you is losing its grip. It means the door you've been praying for is aligning with heaven's timing. Breakthrough doesn't start when the blessing arrives. Breakthrough starts when God begins preparing your spirit to receive it. And if these signs are appearing in your life, then the shift you've been praying for is already closer than you think. The shift you didn't see coming. There comes a moment in every long battle when something inside you changes, not because the situation resolved, but because you finally recognize what God has been doing beneath the surface. The pressure you felt was not the sign of collapse, it was the sign of construction. The discomfort was not evidence of abandonment. It was evidence that the old season was losing its power over you. This is the turning point. You begin to see that breakthrough is not a dramatic moment that appears out of nowhere. It is the result of every internal shift God has been carefully shaping inside you. You realize the cycle you thought would last forever has already started to weaken. You recognize that the heaviness you felt was not the end, it was transition. And now standing here, you can sense it. Something is different, something is lighter, something inside you is awakening with new clarity. Not everything has changed externally, but you are no longer the same person you were when this battle began. And because you have changed, the battle cannot stay the same. This is where breakthrough begins. Not in the moment the door opens, but in the moment your spirit shifts and you finally step forward with a renewed sense of identity, truth, and alignment. How to walk into the breakthrough. You've been preparing for breakthrough is both divine and practical. God moves supernaturally, but He also asks us to move intentionally. Here are the steps that help you step into the new season He is forming. 1. Acknowledge the shift within you. You are not who you were. Recognize the growth, the clarity, and the strength God has developed in you. 2. Release the cycles that no longer fit. Let go of responses, habits, and emotional loops that once felt necessary but now feel restricting. 3. Align your thoughts with truth daily. Breakthrough is sustained by a renewed mind. Speak truth into places where old lies once ruled. 4. Create new boundaries that match the new season. You cannot walk into breakthrough with the same boundaries that let old patterns return. 5. Take one courageous step. Breakthrough does not usually require leaps. It requires obedience and movement. One step in the direction God is pointing is enough. 6. Remain sensitive to God's leading. The same Spirit who prepared you internally will guide you externally. Stay responsive. Stay open. Realize a prayer for the one standing on the edge of breakthrough. Lord, for the heart listening right now, the one who has carried long battles, repeated cycles, quiet exhaustion, and hopes that felt delayed, breathe strength into them again. Remind them that you have not wasted a single moment of their waiting. Remind them that you have been shaping, healing, and preparing them for this very season. Where there is fear, bring peace. Where there is confusion, bring clarity. Where there is weariness, bring renewed strength. Break every cycle that has held them. Lift every weight that has pressed on them. Align their heart with the new thing you are unfolding in their life. And when the moment comes for them to step forward, let them walk with confidence, not in their own ability, but in your faithfulness. Let this be the season where internal shifts lead to external change, where old patterns lose their grip, and where your breakthrough becomes unmistakably real. Amen. May you walk into this week with a steady heart. May God give you eyes to see the signs of breakthrough forming all around you. May clarity rise where confusion once lived, and may peace take the place of pressure. Your story is not stuck. Your cycle is not permanent. Your breakthrough is not far. Something has already shifted, inside you, around you, and ahead of you. If this message brought strength or peace to your heart, I invite you to subscribe and join me for more teachings and prayers that walk with you through the hard places of life. And remember, you are not alone. God is guiding you, and He is not finished writing your story.